Bonjour à tous. Je m'excuse parce que mon français n'est pas à l'auteur de la circonstance. Pourtant, je vais faire cette présentation en anglais. OK. Alessandro Sforza, King of Swords. I'm going to talk about this character who is a 15th century military man. So the incomplete set of cards conserved in Catania's museum of Castello Ursino is known as Alessandro Sforza Tarot. So who was he? Who was Alessandro Sforza? And what is his connection with the Catania cards? And then if you click on, go to the next slide, yes, this is the Catania cards. Most of the cards are kept in the museum of Castello Ursino in Catania, except for two, which have a darker background in this picture. And those two are kept in Palerme, Museum of Palazzo Abatellis, but they belong to the same set. Okay, next slide. Yes, next slide, please. Okay, so Alessandro Sforza was born in 1409 and died in 1473, so he was 64 when he died. He was a condottiero, that is a captain in command of mercenary troops contracted by city-states and feudal powers fighting for political freedom or territorial extension in 15th century Italy. His wars were waged in central Italy, then under papal jurisdiction. By the 15th century, in fact, the state of the church had ended up being ruled by several feudal lords who kept fighting each other with the help of mercenaries. This was the background to Alessandro eventually becoming Lord of Pesaro. Next, please. Yes, now we can see 4 portraits if you click again and again and again. Yes, and again. Yeah. That's it. We see 4 portraits of Alessandro at different times in his life. The one I'm going to use throughout the presentation, just for the sake of clarity, to avoid confusion, is the first one. That is a youthful portrait of Alessandro when he was probably about 36 years old, which is the time when he becomes Lord of Pesaro. Okay, next one, please. Yeah. In Pesaro, Alessandro built a grand countryside residence known as Villa Imperiale because its first stone was placed by Frederick III of Habsburg. Next one. Next one, please. Yes, thank you. Frederick was in Italy in 1452 to be crowned Holy Roman Emperor in Rome and has stopped over in Pesaro during that voyage. This episode gives some idea of the level of Alessandro's connections. On a well in the court of honor, next one please, yes, are featured the arms of the Sforza family, as well as Alessandro's personal device, the ring and flower. Next one, please. That's it. And here's the connection with the Catania tarot set, for the ring and flower device also appears on the shield of the King of Swords card. Next one, please. Now, the Sforza of Pesaro were eventually replaced by the Della Rovere dynasty, who obviously replaced the heraldic symbols of their predecessors with their own. The ring and flower emblem, however, has survived. Next one, please. On the facade, and the next one, that's it. On the facade of the Sforza Palace, now known as Palazzo Ducale. Next one. At the center of an arch decorated with a chain of interlocking rings. This decoration was once painted in red, white, and green. These colors appear in the livery of the Knave of Cups and the grooms in the Chariot card or the Catania tarot. Next slide, please. So Alessandro was the illegitimate son of another condottiero, Muzio Attendolo, founder of the Sforza dynasty. Muzio Attendolo was Count of Codignola, hence the quinces or cotogni on his banner, together with the blue and white waves combined with red, the Sforza colors. Now, while Alessandro was still very young, his mother was married off to a courtier of the Marquis of Ferrara, Niccolò III d'Este. You can see him up on the map. Alessandro and his brother Francesco were educated at that court, at the court of Este, together with Lionello and Borso. Next one, please. Sons of Niccolò. Niccolò must have held Alessandro in special consideration because he even gifted him the famous Schifanoia Palace in Ferrara, which Alessandro subsequently sold. Now, the castle you see there is not the Schifanoia Palace, is the castle in Ferrara that belonged to the Este residence, official residence. Now, next slide, please. Okay. Now, Alessandro married twice. His first wife, Costanza da Varano of Camerino, gave him a daughter, Battista, and a son, Costanzo. Battista eventually became Lady of Urbino by marrying Federico da Montefeltro, while Costanzo succeeded his father as Duke of Pesaro and married Camilla of Aragon. Can you click on the next one, please? That painting, that's the detail of a painting that I'm going to show you later in its entirety. And that shows the two children, Costanzo, who's wearing the Sforza livery, and Battista. They are kneeling opposite their father, who is in armor, Alessandro. Now, if you click again, we can see the husband of Battista and the wife of Costanzo. That's it. So that's Federico da Montefeltro, who married Battista, and Camilla of Aragon, who married Costanzo. Next one, please. Now, Alessandro's first wife was Costanza da Varano, but the second wife was Sueva da Montefeltro, and she was the half-sister of Federico da Montefeltro. Thus, two Renaissance courts had strong connections with Pesaro. Ferrara, when the young Alessandro Sforza had grown up, and Urbino, whose ruler Federico da Montefeltro was Alessandro's son-in-law. So you can see Battista Sforza opposite Federico, yeah? And so Federico was Alessandro's son-in-law because he married Battista, as well as the half-brother of Alessandro's second wife, Sueva. This double family bond between Alessandro and Federico must have played a role in the pursuit of excellence in the arts, particularly as both Costanza and her daughter Battista were extremely cultivated. So while the husbands were making war, the wife of Alessandro and her daughter Battista, who married Federico, were cultivating the arts. And this is why they brought Pesaro and Urbino to the height of centers of culture. Next one, please. So, although both the Pesaro and Urbino courts were renowned for their rich libraries and art collections, only Federico's fame has gone down into mainstream history, since the Pesaro Sforza was subjected to a damnatio memoriae by the Della Rovere dynasty, who succeeded them in the 16th century. Basically, the Della Rovere dynasty tried to erase all the symbols of their predecessors. And this is also why we don't know much of the court of Pesaro under the Sforzas. Also, there was a fire in the library of Alessandro, and this happened in 1514, already when Pesaro was already under the Della Rovere. Now, the contents of Alessandro's library are known through various documents, including an inventory of the paintings. Next one, please. Next slide, please. Yes. One of these paintings was a so-called Sforza altarpiece, now in Brussels' Musée des Beaux-Arts. It features portraits of 3 members of the Sforza family. As we saw before, can you go on to the next one, please? No, next one. That's it. So we saw this before, the 3 Sforzas, Alessandro and his children. And behind Alessandro, you can see a pile of Sforza emblems. So if we go on to the next slide, we can see enlarged, yes, the top of the pile, which is a man-headed dragon holding in its claws a ring with a flower in the middle. Look at that flower. That flower is, the colors can be seen quite well. Red, white, and the calyx of the flower is green. So that's three colors, the red, white, and green that we saw in the Esther livery. Now, if you click again, please, if you go on to the next, please, that's it. Too far. Go back a bit. Yes. So you can see it's the same as the symbol in the Catania cards. And this is why the cards have been attributed to Alessandro, not in the sense that Alessandro painted them, of course, but to the court of Pesaro. Next one, please. That's it. That's a mistake here. I wrote la blague. It should have been la bague. La bague et la fleur. As we have seen, the ring and flower appears in a number of locations connected with the Pesaro Sforzas, such as the wellhead at the Villa Imperiale, we saw that before, where it is carved along with all the Sforza symbols. In the Castle of Gradara, you can see on the top right-hand corner, you can see a painting in the ceiling of on the ceiling of the Castle of Gradara with the flower. The flower is red, white, and green. But on the Castle of Gradara also there is a carving of this symbol with initials AS and AL for Alessandro and SF for Sforza. And the Castle of Gradara is one of Alessandro's castles near Pesaro. And the symbol is also found on some of Pesaro's famous Violica plates. That's one featured on the bottom right corner. And some illuminated manuscripts that survived the library fire. That's a page from one of the manuscripts of Alessandro, and that is the Canzoniere. And that is featured also in the catalogue of the exhibition. And if you click again, we can see, yes, a detail of the border with the famous flower. Next one, please. So going back to Alessandro's life, let's summarize. Born into a family of condottieri, Alessandro's military experiences began during his adolescence. He accompanied his brother Francesco in all his wars until the conquest of Milan. His life was full of battles, sieges, victories, defeats. He was taken hostage and imprisoned, conquered castles and defended cities. When he became Lord of Pesaro in 1445, Alessandro was about 36 years old, and that's the age. His smaller portrait there, you can see the other two. Now, next one, please. Now, Alessandro had strong links with two other dynasties, as we have seen. The Montefeltro of Urbino, with whom he was related through both his daughter Battista, his second wife Sueva, and the Este or Estensi of Ferrara, at whose court he had spent his childhood until he was 11 years old. Next one, please. Now, from the Este livery must have come the green, red, and white colors which decorated Alessandro's palace in Pesaro. You can see on the right a fresco from the Schifanoia Palace, which was later owned by Borso d'Este. Borso is one of the children of Niccolò, Marquis of Ferrara, with whom Alessandro grew up. Now you can see the court of Borso d'Este and the livery that his courtiers are wearing. You can see their hose, the stockings, red and white and green. And you can also see on the other side of the slide two cards from the Catania set, and the characters are wearing the same color, the same colors. You see that the stockings are red and white and green. And if we click again, we can see a detail of the stockings, yes. And if we click once again, we can see also the ring and flower again, and and click again, please. Yes, that's Alessandro, who was educated together with Borso at the Este court. So that's probably where these three colors come from. And click again, once again. We can see Alessandro's father in the middle, Muzio Attendolo, and beside him, the Marquis of Ferrara, Niccolò, who gifted this ring and flower to Muzio Attendolo. And Muzio Attendolo, Sforza, used the ring and flower as his emblem as early as 1409. That's the year when Alessandro was born. Next one, please. Now, in fact, the ring and flower emblem was used by Borso quite a lot, and it appears 18 times in his illuminated Bible. Now, can we click again? Yes, we can see all this. Yes, that's it. So these are various examples of the ring and flower being featured in the Bible. Although the flower has changed its color, by now it has become a kind of purplish red. So it seems that Borso, by the second half of the 15th century, is not bothered much with the original colors. So this is the Bible of Borso was produced between 1455 and 1461. I'm not sure whether the date you have there is correct. It should be 1455, 1461. The Estensi are documented to have been the Este dynasty. So Borso and his family are documented to have been so keen on card games that they even had court card makers as early as 1442. One of these card painters was a Petrecino da Firenze. Yes, that's it. Petrecino da Firenze also designed medals. As you can see, that's a medal of Borso d'Este. And he also doubled as a page to Borso. He had many jobs there at the court of the Este, but one of his jobs was that of a card painter. We don't have a document that says that a particular set of cards that we know was painted by Petrecino da Firenze. But that is quite an interesting detail, because this information that Petrecino da Firenze, this Florentine painter, was working regularly as Borso's court, supports the theory of a Florentine origin of the playing cards used in Ferrara, a theory that is also based on stylistic analogies between the cards in the Ursino deck and contemporary Florentine miniatures. This is an interesting link. Next one, please. Next slide, please. Yes. Now, this, of course, does not solve the problem of the meaning of the ring and flower emblem in the context of the Ursino tarot or the Catania tarot set. Whether the cards, can you hear me? Yes? Is everything all right?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes? Yes. Okay. Hello? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Whether the cards were made in Florence, Ferrara, or even Pesaro, did Alessandro Sforza commission the deck? The King of Swords is the only extant king in the set. We do not know whether this or other devices were featured on the missing court cards, particularly the three other kings. There are no kings left in the very similar Charles VI tarot at the Bibliothèque Nationale de France. But there is a naval swords carrying a shield of the same type as that of the Ursino King of Swords, except that it bears no device. Can you click, please? Yes. Or if there was one, it is now illegible. On the other hand, it is quite possible that Alessandro Sforza, a refined patron of the arts, who saw no problem in recruiting his craftsmen from far and wide, we saw the painting by Roger van der Weyden, for instance. So it is possible that Alessandro might have asked the Este, with whom he was in more than friendly terms, whether he could avail himself of the skill of the card painters. In fact, he might even have been presented the cards by some member of the Este family. Basically, the Este might have produced the cards, maybe their Florentine painter might have produced the cards, or maybe they asked they had the cards made in Florence, and they might have given Alessandro a set of cards with himself as the King of Swords. Who knows? After all, the Este had once given Alessandro a whole palace, the palace of Schifanoia. Why not a set of playing cards then? Next one, please. In conclusion, given the success of the ring and flower symbol in both Ferrara and Pesaro, it is difficult to decide whether the Ursino King of Swords is meant to allude to Alessandro Sforza, Borso d'Este, or even to either of their fathers, respectively Muzio Tendolo Sforza and Niccolò III of Este. Perhaps the clue lies in a yet undiscovered card from the very incomplete Catania set. Merci beaucoup.
Alors, je vais me mettre ici pour laisser le micro aux réponses d'Emilia Maggio. On voit qu'elle ouvre un certain nombre de perspectives ou de questions, notamment sur l'origine, la provenance des cartes, ainsi que leur destinataire. Comme vous l'avez compris, elle fait remarquer que nous n'avons conservé que ce roi d'épée avec l'emblème que nous attribuons à Alessandro Sforza. Elle fait remarquer que cet emblème est déjà connu des Este, mais là, je crois que peut-être Ada Labriola va pouvoir nous en dire plus, parce qu'il y a une chronologie bien particulière, et elle propose elle ne propose pas, justement, elle fait valoir que ces cartes auraient bien pu avoir été peintes aussi bien à Pesaro, à Ferrare ou à Florence, éventuellement. Bon. Ici, nous les tenons plutôt pour florentines. Moi, il me semble que Ferrare ne fait plus de cartes à jouer à ce moment-là parce qu'ils ont liquidé l'atelier de peintre qui avait été créé un peu plus tôt. Mais la question mérite d'être posée. Alors, précisément, avez-vous des questions à apporter ou des réponses? Maybe, Ada, you may have something to say about the emblem and its chronology.
Obviously an expert. I liked
Could you speak louder or come here?
I am not an expert of emblems, and I just can say what I read. I read about the Bible of Borso d'Este, which Emilia has shown this from which Emilia has shown this emblem of the ring with the carnation. I just had a change of emails with some people, some scholars who wrote about the Bible, who studied the Bible, art historian, and also in the Bollettino d'Arte, who is an Italian journal. There is maybe Gabriele knows it. There is an article just dedicated to the emblem of the Bibles. And in this article, the scholar, I don't remember the name, Di Pietro, maybe Di Pietro, says that they analyzed the pigments, the colors, and they discovered that the ring with they say carnation, not flower in general, was added, was not original. Was not originally painted in the Bible, but was added on something else, which is sotto, which is under, and maybe it was added by Ercole the First, because the diamond ring with the carnation appears also in manuscripts surely commissioned by Ercole d'Este. But it is just what I read. I am not an expert on this subject.
Pour résumer rapidement en français le débat, ça tourne autour justement de cet emblème que nous avons vu, la blague et la fleur. Alors, toutes les quelques fautes qui restaient, parce qu'elle en avait fait très peu, c'est moi qui ai enfin pas oublié de les faire, j'ai un peu mélangé les fichiers. Il y avait celui que j'avais corrigé en écrivant bague plutôt que blague et d'Urbino au lieu de Urbino. Et malheureusement, j'ai envoyé le mauvais fichier. Je suis l'entier responsable de ça. Le fichier corrigé est sur mon disque dur. Mais tout ça ayant été fait un peu au dernier moment, je fais amende honorable, et notamment auprès de Emilia, qui comptait sur moi pour faire ces petites corrections. Alors, ceci dit, nous parlons donc de cet emblème, et Ada Labriola nous apprend qu'une étude récente portant sur la fameuse Bible de Borso d'Este a révélé que l'emblème de l'anneau diamanté avec un œillet, c'est un œillet tout particulièrement apparemment, avait été posé ultérieurement sur la Bible, alors que c'était jusque-là tenu pour faisant partie du décor initial de cette Bible, où a travaillé Franco dei Rossi, le peintre des 6 cartes un peu différentes du Tarot Coleoni, avec Crivelli et d'autres. Et on tenait donc cet emblème pour originairement d'Este, parce que présent cette Bible qui a été peinte entre 1455 et 1461. Mais voilà qu'on découvre qu'en réalité, cet emblème a été posé plus tard, à la demande d'Hercule Ier, donc celui qui épouse Éléonore d'Aragon en 1473. Il est duc de Ferrare depuis 1471, je crois. Il était auparavant marquis, parce qu'il a succédé à son frère en 1470. Donc, c'est lui qui aurait fait ça, et il a aussi fait décorer d'autres manuscrits avec ce même emblème auquel il avait l'air de tenir. Mais voilà, c'est le débat qui est noué et auquel Emilia a sûrement une réponse à nous donner, ou un propos.
Hello?
Yes, Emilia.
Yes? Okay. Now, the ring and flower, this is very interesting. I didn't know that the ring and flower in Borso's Bible had been repainted, but that makes perfect sense. Borso's Bible is later than the ring and flower used by Alessandro. And I think that the original flower was a daisy. The daisy has got the tips of its petals that are red, and then the petals in themselves are white, and then the calyx is green, of course. And the same colors, I think, were used also by Alessandro Sforza. And there is a book that is the wedding of Costanzo and Camilla of Aragon. And in this book, there are images of the various triumphal chariots that were organized for this wedding. And on the side of the chariot, of one of the chariots, there's this emblem painted with the original colors. So it could be that the flower, well, obviously the flower had a different evolution in the next generation of the Este court. I mean, after Niccolò, basically. But I'm not sure, having said this, I'm not sure what the question was. Perhaps I should have asked that straight away. Is what I said answering the question or not?
Okay.
No?
Non, simplement résumer un peu ce qu'elle vient de dire. Donc, elle dit que l'emblème était déjà connu des Estés, mais qu'à l'origine, c'était plutôt une marguerite qu'un œillet. Mais je vois que Gabriel Reina a fait un signe de dénégation, et donc il n'a pas l'air d'être d'accord. Gabriel, vous voulez intervenir?
Good afternoon. And no, this is interesting also because this is it's another proof that our range of study is always in evolution. Me too, I was surprised when I was studying, and it's okay if I speak it to English. Yes, when I was wandering Lombardy during my postgraduate, and I was trying to identify this flower that was considered for famous art dealers, with like imagine a tea store. There were a lot of attribution also by great special heraldry, like Gaston Cambin, who was a Swiss, who made a huge book about the heraldic badges of the Visconti. To my great surprise, I discovered before in Busto Arsizio, in Abbiategrasso, in a castle of Filippo Maria Visconti, a strange motto, who was a bomb fan, that I found then in a fireplace on the Orta Lake. It's completely unknown. I never found it published earlier. And later, in a castle that is in Duno Lona, the interiors are frescoed with this extraordinary flower, but it's without any doubt a carnation. In my thesis, for me too, I was surprised because it's been a big mystery. And date back to the time of Filippo Maria Visconti. And big frescoes, and you comparing the pictures also with old dishes, also coming from the Orient, you can see that it's without any doubt a carnation. So there is a literature also about the symbol of loyalty during marriages, and of course it's just a theory, and could be an immigration of symbols from the Visconti to Sforza to Vieste, because of this way of giving as a gift on livery heraldic badges. For example, there is a document in the National Archives in which during the Sforza they sent to Isabella d'Este a very precious damask on which was designed the heraldic badge of the Towers of Genoa that you can find also in a cameo with the portrait of Ludovico il Moro. So this is another interesting, it's very important for me to compare all our discoveries and impressions to reach a solution. Thank you.
Donc, si j'ai bien compris, l'emblème serait venu des Visconti, serait passé au Sforza et au Sforza de Pesaro, et ensuite aux Este.
Probablement est arrivé, puis voilà. Aux Este.
Et pour vous, Gabriele, c'est toujours un œillet.
Oui, exactement. Ce château-là qui se trouve à Induno Olona, qui est la vallée de la rivière Olona, c'est pour moi aussi fut une surprise immense. Même cette devise à bon fin, je n'ai jamais retrouvé, ne se trouve
nulle part.
Dans Beltrami, dans n'importe quel. C'est vraiment tout à fait inconnu. Donc il y a encore beaucoup de choses à découvrir.
Ah oui.
Je l'ai trouvé aussi, je disais, avec Madame de Mort dans le château de Fontanetto d'Agogne, que je défie n'importe quel étudiant connaisseur à avoir visité ce château de Fontanetto d'Agogne. Pour moi aussi, je ne le connaissais pas du tout. Il y avait une importante branche de Visconti et pleine de devises heraldiques sur le plafond. Je n'ai pas pu les visiter complètement parce que maintenant, ce sont des maisons de paysans.
Ah oui, d'accord.
Il y avait tout un château très important. Donc il y a encore vraiment beaucoup de choses à découvrir.
Tant mieux, sinon.
C'est fort intéressant. Donc,
à quoi bon vivre plus?
Donc, en tout cas, des compliments pour la recherche de madame.
Ouais. Emilia a peut-être des choses à conclure?
We hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. I wanted to say something about the symbols because, yes, they were passed, they were given as gifts. And this is not so strange, really. If you think that sometimes the emperor would give his symbol of the eagle, for instance, to a particular family that he was staying with. Because there had been some diplomatic exchange, maybe, or some. So there was a sign of alliance. It wasn't just a sign of friendship. It was a sign of political alliance, and some of the symbols would end up in the coat of arms. It is also possible that the symbols going from one family to the other would slightly change with time and moving from a family to another. For instance, I'm thinking of a bust of Beatrice d'Este, and I think she married Mattia Corvino of Hungary, Matthias Corvinus of Hungary, and in this bust
she was Beatrice d'Aragona.
Sorry, Aragona. You're right, Aragona. And she's and there is this portrait bust that is a statue, And in bas relief, you can see all the ornaments in her dress. And right in the middle, there's an ornament of a ring and flower, a ring with something inside that apparently looks like a flower, and then you look harder and it's something else. So and also the ring with the diamond exists by itself, and the Medici also used it. So it is these symbols would change, going from a person to another and from a family to another. But the actual meaning, I don't know, unless we find a document that says, and this was given by A to B in sign of such and such. Unless we find documents like this, we can sort of speculate about the meaning.
Alors, sans surprise, évidemment, Emilia nous rappelle que ce symbole de la bague et de l'œillet ou de la fleur a beaucoup circulé, qu'on le retrouve un peu ici et là, et qu'en plus, il a pu évoluer, subir quelques changements, passant d'une cour à une autre. Et Gabriel voulait à nouveau faire un commentaire.
Oui, à mon avis, je pars comme expert d'héraldique. C'est très intéressant que d'investiguer aussi dans l'héraldique particulière. In English, sorry. In my opinion, to me, to my knowledge, the oldest, in my thesis I wrote about that, when the daughter of Gian Galeazzo Visconti went to France to get married with Charles d'Orléans, yes, Valentina Visconti, the ambassador who carried her to Asti, was a gentleman of a very powerful family who came to an end, was one of the only 3 families of Piedmont who got the title of prince, with the Dal Pozzo, the Ferrero Fieschi, and the family, it's Guasco di Bisio. And you can see, checking in Google Images, Guasco di Bisio Armoirie, that is a cartelé, so quartered, the coat of arms, and there are 2 hands, sometimes of a lion, keeping the ring with a diamond. And if I'm not wrong, there is the motto "Gelé en prix." This is the oldest, how to say, proof I found during my researches that could be a connection to the diamond and the ring. But it's quite interesting. So date back to the Visconti, because in effect, many symbols that we believe sometimes connected to Sforza, we discovered were older, like when we talk about today with Mrs. De Moro about the scopetta, for example. Thank you. So it's